Chapter 1. Dust and Death. The summer sun glared down on the town of Dead Horse Crossing, a forgotten smudge of dirt and wood between two badlands. The wind carried whispers of past sins and the stench of gunpowder from yesterday's shootout. Sheriff Boyd Harper wiped the sweat from his brow and squinted toward the main road. The townsfolk stood still, their chatter dying like a flame doused in whiskey. A lone woman rode into town. Her long brown duster trailed behind her horse like a shroud. Dust clung to her face, streaked with tears and blood. Across her saddle lay the limp, lifeless body of a boy no older than 10, wrapped in a faded red blanket. The child's small boot dangled over the edge. No one spoke, until she slid down from the saddle and turned, her voice cutting through the silence like a whip. "Where's my son's killer?" Gasps rippled through the crowd. Her name was Clara Granger, once the spirited daughter of a New Mexico cattle rancher, now just a shell of who she used to be. Her eyes, once bright as prairie skies, now burned with something older: grief, vengeance, and fire. Sheriff Harper stepped forward. "Ma'am, we didn't even know anyone was killed. What happened?" She lifted her chin, jaw trembling. "You all might have forgotten what justice is, but I haven't. My boy Jesse, he was gunned down outside Red Bluff Creek 2 nights ago. Shot in the back." A murmur rippled among the townsfolk. "I tracked the trail here," she continued. "Boot prints, cigar butts. Your town's brand of justice? It killed my son." Sheriff Harper looked away. Clara's gaze roamed across the faces. Most looked down, a few snickered, some pitied. One man in a shadowed doorway chuckled. "Ain't no room for dead boys or broken mothers here, lady." Claire turned slowly toward him. "You laugh now. You won't be laughing when I put a bullet between your ribs. You'll just be gasping." Chapter 2. The Outlaw with No Friends. That night she buried Jesse behind the church with her own hands. The priest was drunk. No hymns, just the sound of her shovel breaking hard ground. He deserved better, but this world had no softness left. As the last handful of dirt was laid, a voice called from the shadows, "You'll get yourself killed if you go hunting men alone." Clara turned. A man leaned against the oak tree near the graveyard. Broad-shouldered, unshaven, his eyes heavy with stories no one dared ask. A 6-pointed star glittered faintly on his chest, crossed out with a red slash. "You were a lawman?" she asked. He smirked. "I was a lot of things. Mostly mistakes." His name was Colt McCall, once a U.S. Marshal turned outlaw after a failed posse cost the lives of 5 innocents. Now he drank more than he spoke and tried to forget. "What do you want?" she asked. "Same thing you do, redemption." Clara didn't trust him, but she saw it. The pain, the guilt. It mirrored hers. He nodded toward Jesse's grave. "I was near Red Bluff 2 nights ago. Heard gunshots. Saw riders heading this way fast, 4 of them. One wore a black duster with a green feather in his hat. That mean anything?" Clara's breath caught. "That's Seth Branner." Colt's eyes narrowed. "That bastard's alive? You know him?" He nodded grimly. "We ran in the same circles. He's scum with a badge and no morals. If he's in this town, then this place is more cursed than I thought." Chapter 3. The Storm Within. Over the next 2 days, Clara and Colt scoured Dead Horse Crossing. The sheriff wasn't much help. Claimed his hands were tied. The saloon girls whispered of 4 men who came in bloodied, flashing gold. Seth Branner's name was mentioned once before. The girl was slapped silent by her handler. On the 3rd night, Clara sat alone outside the church, cradling Jesse's slingshot. Her knuckles were scraped, lips cracked, and still she refused to break. Colt sat beside her. You ever think about giving up? She stared at the stars. Only when I sleep, but I don't sleep much anymore. You're strong. No, she whispered. I'm hollow. I'm just noise in a canyon, hoping someone hears before the echo fades. He nodded. Hollow hearts echo the loudest. For a moment they were just two broken people beneath a wounded sky. Chapter 4. Blood for Blood. On the fourth day, Clara saw him. Seth Branner, strolling into the general store like he didn't carry the blood of a child on his boots. Tall, with that green feather still tucked in his hat, laughing. Clara froze, her breath shallowed. The image of Jesse's lifeless eyes filled her mind. She reached for her pistol. Colt's hand caught her wrist. Not yet. You shoot him now, they'll hang you. Let's do this right. Clara whispered through clenched teeth, He murdered my son. I know. But if we play this smart, he'll die slow. Chapter 5. The Trap. They set the plan into motion that night. Colt called in an old favor from a rancher outside town. Brought dynamite, 2 extra rifles, and whiskey for courage. The trap was simple. Seth was greedy. He'd robbed Clara's homestead after shooting Jesse. If they leaked a rumor that she'd stashed her late husband's gold under the church, he'd bite. He did. Just past midnight, Seth and his men crept into the church. What they didn't know was Clara and Colt were already inside, Colt up in the rafters with a rifle, Clara behind the altar with the ghost of Jesse urging her on. They waited until Seth kicked open the pulpit. Then Clara stepped forward, pistol raised. Seth Branner, she said calmly, this is for Jesse. He spun, laughing. That boy, just a squealing accident. I'd shoot him again. She fired. The bullet tore through his shoulder, spinning him backward. His men reached for their guns, but Colt shot 2 through the head before they touched their holsters. The third ran. Colt let him. Seth lay bleeding on the church floor, moaning. Clara walked up, staring down at him. You ever have a son? She asked. He coughed. No. Then you'll never understand what I lost. She turned the pistol in her hand, then dropped it. Killing you fast would be too kind. Chapter 6. Justice in the Dust. Seth was left bleeding, tied to the altar. By morning, the sheriff had no choice but to arrest him under public pressure and Colt's loaded rifle. It wasn't much, but it was something. A week later, the judge from Tucson came through. Seth was sentenced to hang. Colt and Clara stood outside the gallows as the trapdoor dropped. Seth didn't scream. Clara felt no joy, just emptiness. But in that silence, Jesse's voice whispered in her heart. You did good, Mama. Chapter 7. Redemption's Trail. Afterward, Colt asked, What now? Clara stared at the horizon. I don't know. Maybe ride. Maybe find another patch of land. He nodded. Could use a hand. I've got an old cabin up in the hills. Good soil. Better air. She looked at him. I'm not the same woman I used to be. He smiled softly. Neither am I. That's the point. She hesitated, then took his hand. Not in love. Not yet. But in understanding, in pain shared, in survival. Together they rode out of Dead Horse Crossing, leaving behind blood, ghosts, and the beginning of something not yet broken.